Hi, Danny here again, with an update on the PlayStation Classic mini hack. Yesterday a new method popped up called Bleemsync, which is a bit more user-friendly and a lot safer in regards to not breaking your system. It involves the same basic USB stick method, but the GitHub user PatHartl added a script which creates a system image that will take over your console without any real changes to the system itself. Meaning that when you remove the stick from the system, it will return to its former self. But there are some limitations though. When the USB stick is activated, the original games that are on the system are not accessible. The system won't show them. Some early adapters had some problem with the system changing region all of a sudden. And cover art is not visible for games that are past the 20th entry. So there's still some work in this method, but it is very promising. And looking at the issue page, it seems to be things that are easily solvable. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how to install it. And as I said before, it's a pretty safe way to hack the system. It's not really a hack actually, but there's not a lot of risk in here. The method we're going to use is Bleemsync, which is based on the LolHack exploit as well, but adds a little functionality where it actually mounts the USB drive as the main game content drive. This means that the games that are originally on there are gone at that point and are replaced with the games you add to it. But the good thing about it is that if you pull out the USB drive, then the original games come back on the system when you boot it up again. There are no original databases overwritten or anything. This is the safest way to do it actually. So what you will need to do is go to the GitHub page. The link is in the description, and that will lead you to the Bleemsync page. On the gpgHax page, actually now advises you to take this method instead. So what you find here is a zip file which you can download, which contains LolHack, a game folder, a system folder. And there's a very comprehensive instruction with it, which explains what it does and the bugs that are still in there and the problems people run into. What you're going to do is you're going to click on download, clone or download, and download the zip file. That will put the zip file in your download folder. And when you unpack it, then you will see that the contents of the image of the USB drive contents is very similar to the gpgHax exploit, but the Bleemsync is added to it. There's a system folder which will be created by Bleemsync, so it will initially not be there. There's a game folder, and in the game folder there are 3 folders for now, named 1, 2, and 3. In every folder there's a game data folder, which contains the game data. As you can see, all the same structure. And in the folder there you found the bin file, PNG file, and a Q file, as well as a LIC file. This version of the exploit also added a game.ini file, which we're going to use to set up the games. So what we're going to do to create a new game, to add a game to the system, I already created 3 games, is copy one of those folders, which is already working, and create a new one is called 4. We're going to add a 4th game to the system. So there we have the same structure again with all the files. And what we're going to do here is we're going to throw in a new ROM image of a PlayStation 1 game. Here I have Bloody Roar again, Bloody Roar 2, which I used for the first demo as well. The PNG file I already created in the first demo. So I'm gonna throw that in that folder. Those are copied there. And we're gonna go to PlayStation Data Center, which is a very convenient site which has all the games documented that are ever released. And here we can find the disk IDs for these games. This is not mandatory, you don't need to use the disk IDs as a file indicator. You can also use file names you want, but especially when you use multi-disc games, it is easier and better identifiable when you use the disk IDs. So we're gonna search up Bloody Roar 2. Here you have it. So what I can do is we're gonna copy the disk ID and we're gonna rename the files. Rename the bin file and the Q file. Then we have to edit the Q file because the original bin name is in there. And I'm going to show you in the next game that you can actually leave the bin name unchanged. But it seems to be common practice to rename the bin and the Q file. But actually that doesn't make any particular sense. Well, rename the PNG file as well. And then we have changed all the files we need to rename. I'm gonna clear out the other game, which is Xenogears, or Einhänder, sorry. And we also have to rename the LIC file. And now we have to change the game.ini file. We'll do that with Notepad++ as well. And what we're gonna do here, we're gonna enter the, and as you can see, you can use Notepad as well. No need specifically to use Notepad++, but we're gonna enter the information of the game, so the disk ID or the name of the identifiable name of the game, the actual name of the game, publisher, which is Hudson Soft for Bloody Roar, and the number of players, and the year of release. Still with this hack, or this exploit, you cannot use two-player option because you use one of the controller ports to use the exploit. So now, when we have updated all the information, we can save this file, and we have added a ROM to the system. Next up, we could try Vigilante 8, the second offense. This is a game with multi-track bin files, which means there is one data track and a lot of audio tracks. And here I'll show you how the Q file is set up. All the bin files are set up here, and we don't want to change all those files. It wouldn't make any sense. It's a lot of work, and why should you if it doesn't need to be done? So we're gonna copy one of the games that are already in there again and create a fifth game. It's important to know that you need to have these games identified by numbers, and they must be numbered one and up, and they need to be consistent. So there needs to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You cannot leave gaps in between. That will cause problems. So we're gonna remove the files from the other game, and we're gonna copy the files of Vigilante 8 2. So they're in the folder right now. And the only name we're gonna change is the Q file. go back to PlayStation Data Center, search up Vigilante A2. Copy the code. And check the actual data we need to enter in the game.ini file already, because all the information is here, the launch date, number of players, etc. So we change the file name. And here you see the contents again of the Q file, but we can leave that unchanged in this example. Now we're going to change the file name for the database to connect them to the ISO. Enter the game's name. And we're going to add Activision as the publisher. This is also a two-player game, and it's from 1998, I think. Yeah. And check if it's a two-player game, but it's definitely is. Yeah, there we go, two-player game. So close that window. So we change this file, we save it, and close it. So now this game is ready to go as well, without changing the bin file names. If you want to add a multi-disc game, then you have to copy both images for both discs, give them a disk ID just to separate them from each other, and then use the game ini file to identify them in the way that I did here. So you use both file names separated with a comma, and it should work. And what we're going to do next, we need to run a script which actually creates the system folder, which will overrule the original system files of the machine. Search up the executable file, the bleemsync.exe file. And when you start it, it will run a script which identifies the 5 games. That's good news. And then we have to copy all the files to the USB drive. So now we added our USB drive to the PC, and we have to format it. And you have to do that in FAT32, and you can do quick format, that's no problem. The USB drive needs to have the name Sony. Yeah, we want to format it. So it's formatting the USB drive. Okay, and then we can copy the contents of our master files to the USB drive. Close that. This can take some time because you're pumping over 6 games, six images, 2 discs, 5 games, 6 discs, which is about 6 gigabytes, I think. So yeah, we're not gonna wait for that. So here's a shortcut. So now we have all our Bleemsync files on our USB drive, so we can put it in our system. So before you're gonna put in the USB thumbstick, get the power off so it gets cold start. Put in the USB stick and put the power back on. It will start giving a red light, indicating that it's in standby mode, and boot it up. So it's now communicating with the USB drive. So when it boots up, it will ask for you to set up the system again. Well, the setup contains choosing a language actually. So I'm gonna choose English for once. And you'll get notified that there's a MultiDisc game in there. So instruction how to change disc. And here you'll see the games I've added. I've added 5 games and there are 4 games. So what is happening here? We have Bloody War, we have Castlevania, Xenogears, and Einhander. Well, Vigilante 8 is on there, but I forgot to put in the thumbnail. So that's why you don't see the thumbnail. But just let's try to start the game. And it starts perfectly fine, so my bad. Yeah, let's see how it runs. Well, as you can see, it runs pretty fine. I don't see any immediate problems with emulation or stuff like that. So it runs like all the other games on the same emulator, of course. So this concludes the little tutorial on how to add games in a more safe way than the last tutorial, which wasn't actually a real tutorial, it was more explanation of what was possible at that moment. So things change very fast. This is about 2 days later, 2-3 days later, and yeah. So when you go back, there's actually a resume point created. Do keep in mind that the resume point is the same resume point as the original game on the original system with the same number. So if you create a resume point for game 4, it will overwrite the resume point for the 4th game on the original system. So keep that in mind. Let's start Castlevania and see how this is running.
Die, monster!
Castlevania is running a bit choppy, and there are some problems with the text as well. Sometimes letters miss in the text for some weird reason. But yeah, it looks like it's playable enough. So it could be the image I'm using. So this is it for now. You can find all the information, all the links to all the places that you need to go in the description, and if there are any changes or remarks, I will put them in the description as well. So thank you, see you soon, bye bye.